Scrap Heap Theater presents an interview with Eric Motte of the band Phone Book. It's okay. Noise Party. We conclude our show with an interview with the famous and not at all elusive figure, Mr. Eric Motte from the band Phone Book. Some of you might recognize Eric if you're in a band. He might have been your sound person at the Middle East the last time you played there. In fact, he might have been your sound person at the Middle East the last time you played there, and that's why it's the last time you played there, but we'll not get into that. Actually,
more
Eric,
monitors. Can I have more monitors? I can't hear myself.
What's the most common complaint that people give you as a sound person at the club, besides more monitors, more monitors? I thought we were going to get fed.
I would probably say that a lot of people are unhappy about having to keep their stage volume low in order to work out with our relatively low-powered PA. And a lot of them really don't like being told that.
Well, you've been on both sides of the fence. What's your most common complaint when you do sound at a club? I mean, when you perform at a club and someone else is doing sound?
I'm totally only concerned about the sound in the room. I learned a long time ago that if I expected to hear my guitar or anybody's vocals, if I relied on monitors or anything at all, I would get very frustrated about half the gigs I played, because it's just how it is. Even Mick Jagger complains about his monitors, and he has the best people and equipment in the world at his access. And personally, I don't give a damn about how it sounds on stage. I want the vocals to be heard over the music, and I want the balance of the music to sound good. That's what I look for, in a sound man and a sound system when I play a club. That's what's important to me.
Well, let's talk a little bit, Eric, about where you're from.
I was born in Boston, in the Brighton section of Boston, and I grew up in the Merrimack Valley in Andover, which is a suburb of Lawrence, about 30 miles north of the city.
And when did you first develop an interest in music, Mr. Motte?
I started playing guitar when I was 12 years old. Was around the same time that I lost interest in schoolwork altogether.
Well, what's the first tune you learned how to play?
First song I learned how to play was Back in Black by A.c./D.C.
Wow. Well, that gives you quite a distinguished lineage then, I suppose. What was the first band you were in?
First real band I was in was
let's talk about the Juvenile Projects for about 30 seconds, which is probably all they deserve.
The Juvenile Projects?
Yeah.
I was in the Carpet Crimps with my first band up in Andover.
Uh-huh.
And,
what year was that?
That was 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the distinction of performing and playing seated all the time, including the guitar player and the bass player and the vocalist.
The Carpet Crimps?
The Carpet Crimps.
C-R-I-M-P-S.
Yeah.
And then you were in Little Brother?
No.
No, then what?
After Carpet Crimps, I was in a band called The Smock, which was also an Andover group.
Smog or Smug?
The Smock.
Oh, the Smock.
Yep.
Okay.
Named after a girl I had a crush on who worked in a supermarket. This was around '84. In '85, I came to Boston and did a videography for the Archbishop's Enema Fetish, which is how I came to meet Sean Brand, Phone Book's lead singer, also singer, and main songwriter for Dogzilla.
Where's Sean from?
Sean is from Maryland, as is Jim. Half of the band is from Maryland and half of the band is originally from Boston.
Well, then it is very appropriate indeed that we are shooting this in the Maryland room.
This is true.
But what part of Maryland is Jim in your lead?
Jim is from Silver Springs and Sean is from Baltimore.
And that leaves one more member of the band unaccounted for, other than yourself.
Steve Villain.
And where's he from?
Dorchester and
Beauty.
Linfield.
Uh-huh. And his instrument?
Is bass.
And what other bands was he in?
Ginger Buttkiss, and prior to that, Dig.
Now, we know that the drummer, Jim, was in the Well Babies prior to, and in the Erratics even before that. And so that pretty much accounts for everybody. Your lead singer used to be in Dogzilla, or is in Dogzilla.
Yeah, they're on a hiatus now, but they are still a band.
They are still viable. Well, that's fortunate. They're certainly the most talented band at what they do in the Boston area.
I totally agree.
And
I was proud to be their guitar roadie for about 4 months once.
So this brings us all the way up to the Smog, and then after that, you did some video work with the Archbishop's Enema Fetish. Now, you were in a band called Little Brother?
No, never in Little Brother.
That wasn't you? And what you were in one band, though?
I was in several. I was in The Kind,
Oh, that's who I'm confusing.
I was in the kind. We played in the summer of 1986 at Chet's Salat in Green Street and TT's. We were sort of a Husker Du-ish type of hardcore band. Very sloppy. The drummer had a double bass set up.
Not
It was a
half
mess.
bad, though. Not half bad. I didn't think the Kind was all that bad. Then after the Kind?
I was in Snout with
Oh.
Tim Halley from the Archbishop's Anima Fetish, 20th century composer Becky Allen, Chris Negrete from the Eels, and actually prior to Sean Dwyer, who's a survivalist. Prior to Snout, I was in actually another group briefly called Living Gloves.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, let's fast forward here. Snout was what, 87?
89.
89, okay.
88 and 89.
88 and 89. Then you got involved with Walter.
Walter, Death, Pain, Hate, and Volume.
Yes, there was another name for the type of music which Walter said that they did.
Maximum Shit and Death.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping to get that out. And so Walter pretty much folded. I mean, I think their last gig was January 2nd, 1991, wasn't it?
Every gig's a reunion.
Okay, every gig's a reunion, and there's no
Walter
rehearsals.
doesn't rehearse, Walter doesn't sound check.
And also, there must be at least one song about secretaries.
There must be at least 2 songs against secretaries. Walter is an anti-secretarial band and believes all secretaries must be destroyed.
Okay, well that's certainly a very plangent philosophy in these times, especially with so many temporary secretaries. But anyhow, Walter pretty much folded in 91, or at least they had their last reunion in 91, and then Phone Book started. So tell us a little bit about how Phone Book got together.
Phone Book, the original batch of songs that I wrote for Phone Book came out of a lot of very long evenings with members of the Doughhead Posse and their entourage. Basically, I first put it together with the members of Ginger Butt Kiss backing me up, minus the guitar player. Our first drummer was Mark from Ginger Butt Kiss. We started working on a few songs in around February of 1991. I originally wanted to do it as a cabaret type project along the lines of, say, Las Vegas or Morphine, and but it worked out so well using a full band. I decided to take it in that direction instead. We took our name after Walter from Walter's former employer, the Phone Book Corporation. They delivered independent telephone directories to Massachusetts mill towns. And a lot of our friends like Chris Rich, Joe Morris, Mark Leibowitz, Walter and so forth worked on a temporary basis for this company. And the federal government seized their assets shortly before we began rehearsals.
How do you respond to charges that you're an art rock band?
I deny them totally. When we were first playing out, we had a keyboard player, and it was just, very confusing. He had a lot of sound problems, and it's definitely not what we're trying to pull off at all. Especially the stuff that I've been writing since Jim's come into the band is much more earthy stuff. In Boston, I would tend to align ourselves more with bands like, Orangutan or the Titanics than with bands like Ajna Chakra. It's not what we do.
Well, and who's your favorite band currently playing in Boston?
That's easy. Iron Sausage.
Iron Sausage is a very fine band. They don't play out very often, though, do they?
Also, every gig's a reunion with them, too.
Uh-huh. I remember seeing Iron Sausage at the Middle East, and even my roommate at the time, Paul Titcomb, was astonished at how good they were. And he's not really the kind of person that goes out much to see bands. What did you do last night?
I was up late at my house playing chess with all my friends.
Oh, you were? And who won?
I did.
What's your favorite defense?
Castle.
Oh, okay. You like castling. Yeah, that's a very, very good and aggressive defense as opposed to a defensive defense.
The best defense is a good offense.
That's what they say. Now, explain the meaning of your song, Real Women Don't Wear Suits.
Real Women Don't Wear Suits is a love song to a woman I almost married years ago. It's not a political statement, although a lot of people have taken it that way. Gotta listen to the lyrics, kids. That's why we have them up in the mix.
Okay,
But, I don't mind defending the politically correct types anyway. But it's not a political song, it's not a message song, it's a love song.
How did you come to write the song Eliminated?
Eliminated basically was about a couple of weird experiences I had in the past 2 years, ranging from a woman who saved my life at Hampshire College when I was playing with Snout, ranging to a weird sort of episode with the Carpenter Center at Harvard University, ranging to the time that I was fucked up out of my mind at Foley's, and I felt like I was back in high school, back in the high school cafeteria.
And that's how the song
It's a
Cafeteria
long sort of
came
like,
about.
yeah, Abbey Road side 2 thing, like 4 or 5 little songs that segue together.
So Eliminated is a song that has the refrain, here in the cafeteria.
Here I am in, yeah, cafeteria is
Here in the
part of
cafeteria.
Eliminated.
All right, in the remaining moments that we have for this interview, would you mind telling me what Phone Book is about? And what is the band about?
Phone Book is a nighttime band. You know, Phone Book is about living in the evening, in the very late evening, and Phone Book is about my experiences working in the nightclub world for 3 years, and you know, about the group of people that I run with and about what happens.
What are your plans for a demo release?
We are going to have either a full-length cassette or a single, depending on finances and on a few label interests that we're still pursuing, by late May or early June at the latest.
What will be on this release?
The 7 songs we recorded at Euphoria and Revere, or 11, depending on how you look at Eliminated. This could be Alston, Albert Eiler, Hearts Collide, Real Women Don't Wear Suits, Wad 1, C-Slum, and Eliminated, which is the long song.
C-Slum?
Yep, it's about Revere Beach.
Oh, of course. That sort of reminds me of Weirton, West Virginia, a country and western slum by Noise Pencil, a little bit.
John Vork is one of my favorite songwriters.
He is a wonderful songwriter. Bridgeport Lathe is an all-time local classic.
Covered by another one of my favorite songwriters and a guest on the Phone Book 7 song, Joe Harvard.
And let's see, I was going to ask you, if you could play a gig with 2 or 3 other bands, which bands would those be?
I'd like to play with the Archbishop's Enema Fetish, and I'd say, I'd say the Archbishop's Enema Fetish and us would be great.
Well, that would certainly fill the evening. They did do a reunion at the Middle East not an awful long time ago.
Last summer.
Now, the final question, what are your plans for the future? What are you planning to do?
We basically are planning to do a regional tour, to do quite a bit of work up towards Montreal and Buffalo, and hopefully we're going to be doing this sometime in the summer. We want to keep on playing Boston and establish a name for ourselves here.
Well, thank you, Eric Motte of Phone Book. And this concludes this episode of Noise Party for this week. And you can see Phone Book at any of the fine local clubs. Call up the radio stations, please, and request Wad 1 and Eliminated.
No, actually, you want to request Albert Eiler and Real Women Don't Wear Suits.
All right, well, we got it straight from the source. Eric Motte of Phone Book. And this concludes Noise Party for this evening. Eric, why don't you take us out on a song? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Here I am in the cafeteria. Here I